Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
Hello, I'm Nick.
I'm Tara.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Josh. It's great to have you back for a 14th consecutive season.
Yep. Great to be here.
I'm very happy to have everybody, so it's not a season without anybody here. It feels full, but me, you, Charlie, Larry, and Ari have been, or will be, on at least 13 seasons with one another.
I guess I actually kind of miss these whole things with doing this.
I do too. I'm glad that we got back on track.
I like the individual stuff too, but the thing is, like, it's kind of great to hear other people's opinions on like the same work.
Yes, I think that it was when we did that restructure, and there's still room for individual content. I think that it offered something new, and it gave us the opportunity to branch out and read some of the things that we wanted to read. Our channel was built on general discussion and the ability to come together and read and go over.
And we got two new people here.
Yep. Nick and Tara are the two newest participants on our show as we enter our new wave. And I mean, I'd love to do this as long as we're functioning. I mean, something like this could probably go on forever, even if it's different people.
Let's do it.
Absolutely. We're going to be going over Hansel and Gretel. In this version, it's actually titled Hansel and Gretel, but this is a Brothers Grimm fairy tale. My issue is mine's a Barnes & Noble classic. I actually started reading this, or I actually started rereading it for this when I went to a cafe down in Tuckerton called Union Market. Very nice place. The discussion starter that I have is Hansel and Gretel is a well-known tale in which two siblings that are not well-to-do go off into the woods and return home each night. One day they follow a path and find a house covered in sweets, owned by a witch, and endure plenty of horrors. What did you pick up from reading Hansel and Gretel that you did not pick up through adaptations you watched, or from abridged or watered-down versions that you may have read or consumed?
Okay, so there's one I actually picked up on that I didn't realize from other ones. The mom is kind of a bad mom, I would say. Like she suggests to the father that they just abandon the kids in the woods for them to fend for themselves, and that's how they end up getting to the problem with the witch in the first place. And if the mother didn't suggest that, then the thing is, then the kids would not have been abandoned like that. I'm kind of concerned, like, what kind of mother decides to abandon her own kids? She's kind of a horrible person, too.
The interesting thing is that there's a footnote for this version. It actually...
stepmother?
Yeah, they made her a stepmother.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And, yeah, this story features...
Mine was stepmother as well.
Oh, mine just said mother.
Yeah.
It did not specify step.
So mine started with stepmother and then mother, and at the end it was called woman. She was called woman, not the mother.
Well, okay.
They wanted to make, according to this book, it was to make the cruelty of the stepmother or the motherly figure less shocking. They would think that it would be outrageous, but if you made it a stepmother, that's somebody who may not be as attached to their children.
Yeah.
Okay. The version didn't specify stepmother. It just said mother. There could have been a footnote that would have said that, but the version I was read was online. I don't know how well the translation was from German to English, but it just said mother. I assumed it was like their actual birth mother, which to me kind of makes it way more messed up. But the thing is, I've always expected that from Brothers Grimm.
From what I'm generally familiar with, it's the story generally, at least I'm familiar with, is they're just wandering in the woods. You don't generally get an idea as to why they're there. Maybe sometimes you do, if you've read this multiple times. They are going there on the basis that they are practically starving. That all they're getting is that little piece of bread that decreases each day, and they're on their last leg, too. And then they find that they're lured into this area, not intentionally so. They just stumble across it, and they have the opportunity to have all that they want at their fingertips.
Yeah. It's interesting, definitely, how much it changes things if it's the mother or the stepmother. In all the versions, I'm pretty sure they just call the father, right? Who is the one ultimately who leads them out in the version I read, right? He leads them out into the woods, right, with the idea of abandoning them. But
even though he was originally against it, though.
Yeah, so that's what I'm getting at, right? Is like, what about him? He seems reluctant, but he goes through with it, and then later after the stepmother dies or goes away or whatever, in whichever version, then he's kind of like absolved and he's back to being her father.
He's like, what did I do?
Yeah.
In our version, in this version, she's dead.
She's dead. Yeah.
She dies at the end. But another thing too is like the fact in other versions I've not read but like seen, the kids are just in the woods and you don't see the father and you see the mother saying, "You guys be good, stay here," and walks away, and then they defend themselves. And this one, the version I read was that both parents took the kids out and they're gonna go. The first time was they're gonna go find wood, and then the other time they're gonna go a little bit further into the woods. They both take them in the woods. It's not just the father, it's both. And then they leave them. And I think the last one was just the father. I'm not sure. I don't remember. But it was like different.
So I haven't read a lot of Brothers Grimm, I don't think, but I'm familiar, and so I expected violence or some ugly things. I don't know how much of but there is supposed to be like a core lesson at most of these, right? There's some type of ethic or value.
Yeah, most of these. Like the Brothers Grimm, like most of their fairy tales were like cautionary tales.
Cautionary tales, yeah.
People have become more, used to the Disney versions of these movies. The core lesson of them is like, these are cautionary tales, don't do this.
And they are more interesting, I think, when they're more graphic.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about kids reading it some long time ago and being scared. What lessons did I miss in Hansel and Gretel?
I have no clue.
I don't know either.
Sometimes I try to find out hard.
I mean, it may have been clearer if the kids, if both of them died at the end. And there may have been, like, I know Little Red Riding Hood, there were earlier versions where she died, she was eaten by the wolf. They just cut it off. When Brothers Grimm approached, at least in this version, they spared him of that horrific ending. I think that there are lessons that can come upon it, like, be mindful and don't let your impulses get the best of you.
Yeah,
there's one of like, don't take candy from strangers.
That's actually...
That's why I always thought the message was, but it doesn't really come across in that.
Because they are...
Because she doesn't offer them the house. They already start eating the house before they meet the witch. Yeah,
certainly.
And then in my version, the reason they want to get rid of the kids, the mother wants to get rid of the kids because there's no food left.
Oh yeah.
Greed is another. Don't be too greedy.
Yeah.
Or blame the kid for being greedy. Frugal, I guess, on how plan better with your meals so you have enough for whatever.
Ration.
Yeah, maybe there's a lesson there for the parents where, it's not like, we have too many hungry mouths to feed, we need to send the kids away. It's like, we have too many hungry mouths to feed, I'm going to starve. So that the kids
absolutely.
Can eat.
The kids come first.
And they ultimately, they come into a wealth of food, and literally wealth. And I think it would make it even better if the stepmom had died of starvation while they were gone.
And in some versions, because the way the story ends is the mother or the woman is dead because she's not mother anymore. Towards the end, some people are saying or speculating that maybe the mother was actually the witch because she shoved the witch in the oven.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
that's fun.
Interesting.
That would be an interesting twist.
And it just suddenly happens.
Because the way the story was is that the woman it's not mother.
Yeah.
It became the woman.
And also she was the one with the idea to send them away in the first place. Yeah. So if it was her, then she would send the kids away to herself so she could eat them.
Oh, yeah.
And then once she's killed, then she ceases to exist in the other half in the house,
Yeah, and then
that's really interesting.
Wow, okay, yeah. I don't know if that was their intention, but the thing is the way you explain it, that could be the thing. Yeah. It could have been the thing is that she could have been the witch, set them out. The thing is then have them to eat them. But since she was killed, the thing is that's why she no longer exists at the end.
Yeah.
It would be, especially if there was an indicator.
Can we talk to the Brothers Grimm?
Like if they had the same kind of eyes, or
I'm not sure exactly what the indicator is because that's what I've been thinking this whole time. Because I've been looking over my notes and
I never thought of that.
Because I'm thinking of that. Because then I thought about the one version I actually saw was the stepmother was the evil witch the whole time. At the end, and I'm thinking about, it's mother, and then it slowly becomes the woman, and then she's dead at the end, and I'm like, well, maybe she was the witch.
Yeah.
Is there a version like that?
I'm ready to subscribe to that theory right now.
Because I think it was a movie when I saw it or something, or something.
I mean, there's different versions of Hansel
Maybe
and
it
Gretel.
was,
There's
maybe
probably
it was like the
original-
Grimm fairy tales when we grew up with.
Maybe.
Was
It
it
could
that
be.
version?
I don't-
Remember
I-
like the Grimm fairy tales like back in like it played on PBS
Oh yeah, no, I never
Saw
watched
it.
PBS.
No, I've never seen.
or NJN, wherever you guys.
I mean,
sorry.
yeah, I mean,
I never watched PBS.
NJN and WHYY, they're all under
Yeah.
that umbrella.
Yeah.
Mine was WB.
Yeah.
That's a completely different network.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Things like
Yeah.
there's kids networks that you come home to is either WB or PBS. I went to WB.
Okay. I mean, I think when you get older, you go to WB.
I never saw Hansel and Gretel on TV at all on any of the channels. But there's so many things inspired by, and I feel like every animated show especially has a scene or an episode.
Oh yeah,
that
they
Yeah,
always
like
do like
that-
the
like
witch's
Arthur.
house is made out of candy or something like that.
somebody's house is made out of candy. Some kids are getting punished. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
A witch, somebody's getting pushed into an oven.
Yeah.
Or the things to tone it down, they knock them out and then they escape. Because
Sure.
you can't show someone getting pushed into an oven.
Maybe something harmless. Yeah.
I think another interesting thing that I think one of the other lessons or morals has to do with bravery. Because Hansel was more of the
I'll take care of my sister.
I'll take it. Yeah, because initially my impression was that they were about the same age, and maybe they are. Maybe, but Hansel was the one that was he was the protector. He was the one that looked after Gretel. When he gets pushed into the oven, that may be a device for her having to step up and act on her own. I think ultimately, for Fitz face value, the reason that Hansel was pushed was put in the cage was because he was bigger and the witch thought that he had more meat, and
I was
it
just
was
he was the older brother. Like,
But
that's
in my version, the witch was blind. The witches were blind. Explain he was put in a barn in a cage, I guess, and to see if he was fat, she had to like either touch a finger or touch. So he had a stick and he had her touch the stick.
Yeah, it's like you
They
took like a
described it
bone
as
and
a
things
bone,
like
yeah.
the bone.
Yeah.
I thought that was very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
that's so
chicken bone
clever.
or something.
And what you're saying, like how Gretel finally stepped up and and became more brave, got over her fear, not over her fear, but like stepped into more of her fear and pushed and saw the opportunity to push her in and tricked her and like, oh well, let me show me how like you would go in there or something. I forget how the phrase was.
Yeah, it was. She was.
I don't know how to check the oven.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, she had to check the oven.
I'll
and
show you how to do it.
She shoved her in there and turned it on.
It's a great point, though, like, because Hansel says a few times in the short story, it's just short work. He says a few times, I'm going to protect you, essentially. He says to Gretel, like, he leaves the first trail, works, and they're able to find their way back
pebbles.
home. And he says, don't worry, I'm going to get us home. And so you can kind of count on him helping her out. So then when he goes in the cage, that's, where she's not going to have anybody help her. And like you say, she steps up and becomes, more of the protagonist or so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys had in your versions, but in my version there was like a singing bird and it sang for them.
Yes.
So it wasn't mine. Came in twice. The bird sang and they flew off, and that's how they came across the witch's house. They called for the bird again, and the bird helped them go home.
The way
that was my version.
The version I remember, I guess it was kind of singing bird. I don't know if I read it as like you sing a song, but they had breadcrumbs.
The birds ate the breadcrumbs.
Yeah. And things, and they chased the bird, and things. That's how they found the witch's house. So I guess maybe, I guess that's the same thing. Yeah, because that's the same way they found.
But there was one bird singing to them when they chased
talking.
the birds away. It was singing to them, and then it flew away. I guess I think that's how it went. And then they sang to the bird to come back, and that's how the bird found them way home.
Mine was that the bird didn't help them get back home. They found their own way back home.
I think it was like a duck. The duck.
I've
Before
seen
Oh
they,
yeah, white
they
swan
swam back
is what they found.
to eat across the water. They're gonna go on the bird, and then they all couldn't fit. So I forget which sibling idea it was, but he took each one over.
Oh yeah, it was. I remember a white swan is what they said it was. At least in the version I read.
I don't remember. It was I put duck or pigeon.
I saw
It was
a version with duck.
It was like pigeons. Pigeons ate the breadcrumbs, and then it said duck.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
mine said white
wrong.
swan, so.
So white swan seems more better. Seems more practical.
Because honestly, I think a white swan sounds way better compared to like what was going on at the ending. Like just a duck. Like how's a duck gonna carry you across?
I saw one where the duck kind of told them how to get home. Because there was still, the dilemma of how they were going to find their way back, even after the witch is dead.
Yeah.
And
Mine
it was kind of wrapped up nicely with a little duck that came in and said, I'll help you out, you go this way.
Has anybody heard of the new series? It came out, I want to say, 2019. It's called Gretel and Hansel.
I don't think so.
It was an adaptation where they had Gretel as more of 16 or 17 years old and Hansel's 7. They made it so that Gretel was more of the caretaker, protector. I mean, I read a summary and it seemed like Hansel was able to hold his own. I personally would rather see people create new fairy tales or more cautionary or more tales with more empowered female characters than try to recreate pieces that already exist.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is a sense of merit that even if there's questionable things that take place, like in Hansel and Gretel, I think that both of them have their own merit. It's just that some people discover it sooner than others, or they have different ways of showing their strengths.
Honestly, I would like to see darker versions of the fairy tales. And there was things like that for a while. Like, there's a movie called Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. It has the original story of Hansel and Gretel, you know, like the pushing the witch. And after that, they go out.
Like Van Helsing or
they
something?
start exterminating witches.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was a good movie. It didn't do well in the box office, but I thought it was a great movie. The thing is that it took Hansel and Gretel, the thing is that their experience with a witch caused them to want to exterminate other witches.
Yeah.
This works perfectly. And it also plays into the thing that you said, the theories of their mother being a witch. It plays back into that they discover that there's more than one type of witch.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I would like to see darker versions of fairy tales kind of like that, because while the Brothers Grimm were dark, they had been watered down by like Disney and other like, you know, cartoons and stuff like that. Well, can we get back to the darker versions of these fairy tales? Like, give us the original ones, or things like, you know, give us something dark as that original one.
Yeah.
I think there's a dark Sleeping Beauty one, live action one. I forget. It's dark. It's years later. I think it was like made in like either the 90s or 80s. I don't remember, but I'm not sure if it was like an actual movie because I seen it on TV.
Right.
So like a really dark version.
I thought you were talking about like Maleficent for a second. I was like, that wasn't really that dark.
No.
I've seen darker versions of pieces or darker adaptations. I mean, maybe not morbid like the new Winnie the Pooh adaptation.
Yeah.
Is he a zombie or something?
No, it's
a coke addict or something.
They're called horror boots, which are the things they take like a product that has been put into like public domain.
Yeah.
And they make a horror movie out of it. There's a Pooh, Blood and Honey. There's the mean one, which is a Grinch, and then they're making a new one with the Steamboat Willie, Mickey.
Yeah.
Since that's now in public domain.
Huh.
Basically, it's like these things existed. Christopher Robin went away to college, so they went crazy, ate Eeyore, and now only two of them live. It's a Pooh and a Piglet. The movie was stupid, but also very violent. The one word Pooh says is not his catchphrase. You think it would be, oh bother. No, he's like, you left. Shut up.
They could have incorporated "Oh Bother" into the movie.
One thing I will say about the movie, though, the filming location, they filmed in the actual woods that was an inspiration for 1,000 Acres.
Oh, wow.
So I will give them credit for that. That was actually a good film.
And the interesting thing is that Pooh and Piglet were the originals. Tigger actually didn't appear until The House at Pooh Corner. He was not in the original book.
But they mentioned, like, all of them existed, and the thing is then they went crazy after Christopher Robin left.
So was there anything else that anybody wanted to bring up that we didn't cover?
While we were doing this, I decided to read other different versions than just the original Brothers Grimm one.
Well, that's a good idea.
I read a Puerto Rican version. As far as I know, this is the only version where Hansel is the one that pushes the witch into the oven instead of Gretel. There's also a French version I read. In that version, both of the kids were going to be eaten. Like, they were both in a cage being fattened up. And the thing is, again, it ends up with Gretel pushing it in, because the thing is, she tried to grab Gretel, and the thing is, Gretel, like, moved her hand and then pushed the witch into the oven.
I remember.
And then there's a weird version where the thing is, the kids actually ate the witch after she had been burned.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Then, I mean, the one that stuck out to me, we were talking earlier, was the Arthur version from the Kid Shop.
That's
where,
right.
Oh, yeah.
where Arthur and DW are both in the cage, and then the multiple clones of the Tibble twins come and push the witch into the oven, which I thought that was pretty hysterical.
If I could remember what version it was where they ate the witch, I'd probably tell you it, but I forgot which version that was.
We'll have to go looking for that.
They're a bunch of cannibals.
Oh yeah.
I mean, maybe. I mean, they were starving. I don't know why they didn't eat the rest of the house. They ate her, but okay.
I mean, that still makes them cannibals, depending on if you define the witch as being well, human.
I mean, true. I mean, in some version, she could be described as human. In some, she's described as like some
Like a
grotesque
monster.
beast. It really depends on what you think a witch looks like. Because we've seen multiple versions of witches. We've seen like green boils. We've seen them where they look like humans. We've seen them where they look like semi-human. It really depends on what you view a witch as.
Any final thoughts?
Other than I'm definitely on board with the stepmom is the witch, and she's that I think that wraps everything up really nicely. And for me, that gives me what I need to just get in, get out. Great short
I
story.
need a version of that written.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a great thing that I never really have ever thought of.
If anybody is interested in picking up Hansel and Gretel and the other Grimm fairy tales, here is my copy. I got the Barnes & Noble Classics. And I know that you also have...
It's the complete tales, Grimm fairy tales, and it also has legends on them at the end too.
Excellent.
Oh, wow.
It has quite a nice amount of what they've covered.
Yeah, it actually has
There's a quote from Snow White in the back.
it has 200 fairy tales, 10 legends.
Oh, okay. That's
Wow.
pretty impressive.
Because
Is it yours?
I searched
I'd have to-
unabridged fairy tales, and that's what came out from
Where'd you buy that?
Amazon.
Okay, I might get. How much? $3. Okay, probably. I can buy that.
Yeah, we've gone over Little Red Riding Hood and Rapunzel on our channel.
Yeah.
Plenty left.
Be sure to join us next time on another episode of Literary Gladiators. For now, keep reading.